showed up tonight because we need you. We do what we call the thing the We've Been Thinking tour, because as we think about stuff, we either have to get a psychiatrist or we need you to help us work through it, all right? First example, this one's pretty recent. Last Thursday, my brother lives next door to me. His oldest daughter is in medical school. She's in her third year of med school, so in your third year, you have to do everything. And then your fourth year, you kind of specialize. So my brother told me last Thursday she called home to let him know that that day had been prostate check day. It gets better. There are 60 people in her class. They all check the same guy. That's why I need your help. This guy is rolled in a ball right here. And the guy told him, he said he had been doing this for 40 years, and that over the last 40 years, he had had his prostate checked thousands and thousands of times. I'm thinking, you're not doing this for the money, are you? And here's the deal, I don't feel bad for him. He signed up for it. You know who I feel bad for? His mother. And I tell you why, because every week this woman has to go out to lunch with her friends, and her friends are like, well, Inez, what is Billy doing now? Well, he is working all the time, but he said it is wearing his ass out. And here's the other thing I got to thinking about. You know, when they check it, and when, maybe the women don't know this, but they got the glove on, and then they put that jelly. 60 applications of jelly. There is no way this guy can drive home from this event. He can't stay on the seat, you know? It's like... And he can't walk home because if he farts, he'll have a trail of bubbles behind him and little kids chasing him, trying to pop him. These are the kind of things we think about. Well, I haven't decided if I'm running for president or not yet. I started to say I'm not qualified, but this time around it doesn't really matter, does it? Oh my gosh. Well, here's the deal. I mean, like all of y'all, I watch this stuff every day, and it amuses me that all these candidates, they just keep promising people more and more and more. And as I watch it, I think that's not really the problem that we have in America. We don't need more. We have so much stuff now, we can't even enjoy the people we love. What we need is more common sense. And seriously. So if I was running, what I would do is use some common sense and start taking away some of the stupid stuff we don't need. I'd call them no mores. Day number 1, no more picking up dog poop. It's embarrassing. We are the top of the food chain. No other animal picks up another animal's poop. Monkeys pick up their own and throw it, but they're kind of the comedians of the animal world. And they're just trying to make the school kids laugh. But they have a rule in my neighborhood, if you walk your dog and your dog does his business in somebody else's yard, you need to get a little plastic bag, pick it up, and dispose of it. So you drive through my neighborhood and there's all these attractive women walking around with poo-poo purses. And I know the dogs are confused. The dog's like, wait a minute, you're taking it back home? Why did we have to walk 3 blocks? I could have pooped in the living room, saved us both some embarrassment. What a stupid rule. Why would they have us pick it up? It's fertilizer. It makes the grass grow. Lord, it's not like some child is going to step in it. A kid hadn't played in the yard since 1982. You know what's sad? We have an entire generation that has no idea how to get dog poop off the bottom of their shoe. But when I was growing up, we played in the yard every day, and every day somebody stepped in dog poop. And when it was your turn, you knew what to do about it. You would hobble over to the curb, and scrape the biggest part off on the edge of the curb. Then you would find a puddle and you would swirl the bottom of your shoe around in the puddle. Then limp over to the grass and do the brush stroke back and forth. Then you would find a little bitty piece of stick and you would sit down on the curb and you would pick it out of the zigzag pattern on the bottom. Then you wore those shoes to church the next day. And nobody in that church knew you'd stepped in dog poop. So no more picking up dog poop, no more sugar-free cookies. So, I mean, it's like going to the drive-in movie by yourself. You can do it, but it ain't ending in a smile. You're an adult. If you want a cookie, eat a cookie. If you want sugar-free, eat celery. Quit wasting valuable cookie dough on sugar-free cookies. Nobody likes them. Now, you hear this a lot in an election year like this year. All of them talk about the war on women. They each blame each other for having a war on women, which is stupid. This is a media thing. Nobody would have a war on women because they would never win an election. Common sense. If there is any war on women, it's men fighting with each other trying to get a woman. Because everybody loves women. And you know why every man wants a woman? Because women are in sole possession of the most valuable thing on the planet. A brain. These two guys are like, oh, I missed that one. Oh, guess what? They own all of that too. Which I think is part of God's great plan. See, I think God created women to guide men through life. But God knew men were hard-headed and men weren't going to listen to women. So God gave women the other stuff just to make us pay attention. I just think he may have underestimated how powerful the other stuff was going to be to us. Well, think about this. Adam and Eve live in the Garden of Eden. God says to them, you will never be hungry, you'll never be thirsty, you'll never be sick, you'll never die. I'm going to come by every afternoon and go for a walk with you. There's only one rule to live here. Don't eat the fruit off of that one tree. Now, God had no more than gotten in his car and driven off when Eve walked over to the tree and picked an apple and looked at Adam and said, think we should eat this? And he looked at her standing there buck naked and went, hell yeah, baby, if you want to, let's do it. If God had put her in a flannel nightgown, we might all be living in paradise today. No more reality TV shows. Seriously. If I want to watch the day-to-day life of unattractive, uneducated people, I will hang out with my own family. Thank you very much. No more breast reduction surgeries. I mean, why should I be penalized just because your back hurts? Come on. Take an Advil, for crying out loud. No more commercials where some law group is trying to get somebody to sue somebody else. We are the most sue-happy nation on earth, which is why our car insurance is so expensive, which is why our medical insurance is so expensive, all the lawsuits. And it started with cars. Have you been in a car accident? Do you know someone that's been in a car accident? Have you ever heard about a car accident? Now it's everything. Has a woman with a vaginal mesh implant given you the prescription drug fen-phen, which caused you to develop mesothelioma? If so, you could be owed billions. I just remember that happened to me last summer. Yes, sir. No more parents at Little League games. We've tried it. It doesn't work. Children's recreational sports were started for kids to have fun. It is the grown-ups that took the fun out of it. Seriously, parents, no more serious. Parents, no more yelling at the coaches. The coaches are not the reason your child is not going to play professional sports. Your genetics are the reason your child is not going to play professional sports. And no more trophies for everybody. And no more not keeping score. Seriously, no matter how badly you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, the truth in life is there are winners and there are losers. And if you don't believe me, let's get in my car and go to Walmart after midnight. Walmart after midnight makes The Walking Dead look like America's Next Top Model. No more letting people over 65 forward emails. They can use the internet, they just can't forward emails. They cannot contain themselves, they forward everything. I spend hours a day deleting the emails of my father-in-law and my mother. And my father-in-laws are always the political ones. If you don't send this to 1 million people tonight, you are not an American. Well, I was gonna watch TV, but this is gonna take a while. And my mother's are always the humorous ones, which she mislabels in the subject line. She'll have funniest thing I've ever seen. No, it's not, Mother. It's 2 kittens in a clothes basket. At best, it's mildly amusing, and you're distracting me from surfing the web looking for nursing homes within driving distance. See, when it comes to technology, my wife and I laugh about this because we're in our mid-50s, and my wife says we are the bologna in the technology bologna sandwich. We're right in the middle because our parents can't text and our children can't write. My kids don't even think you need to study. They're like, Dad, if you want to know something, you just Google it. And to a point, they're right. I mean, when I was growing up, if you were watching TV and somebody said, what was that guy in? You'd go, well, he looks familiar. That was it. Now you're watching TV, somebody goes, what was that guy in? Somebody goes, he was the janitor on Joey. Of course he was. But I try to tell my kids, I said, yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can learn from Google. I said, but there's just as much stuff you can't learn from Google. You only learn it from life experience. You'll usually learn most of it the hard way. It's stuff that's not Googleable. I don't know if that's a word. All right, here's how I know you don't want a kidney stone. About 6 months ago, I'm in the tire store, getting new tires for my truck. I'm at the counter paying for them, feel great. All of a sudden, it's like Chuck Norris kicked me in the back. I made a noise. I was like, ah! I didn't say it was a masculine noise. I said it was a noise. About 10 seconds later, it hit me again. I was like, well, Dwayne, the kid that is ringing me up at the cash register, looks at me and says, and I quote, hey, I ain't no doctor, which caught me off guard. I mean, it did. Well, I just assumed that he was, and he didn't like wearing his stethoscope while he was changing the tires. He goes, I ain't no doctor, but I think you got a kidney stone because my brother had one, and that's what he acted like. And it's not that I didn't trust Dwayne's diagnosis, but I got to thinking, you know, Jeff, you have a little money. Why not get a second opinion? So I have a buddy that's a urologist, and I called him. I said, dude, I think I might have a kidney stone. He said, well, come in, we'll take an x-ray. So they go in and take the x-ray, and he comes out, and he thinks he's a comedian. He's like, well, I got good news and bad news. He said, the good news is you don't have a kidney stone. Bad news is you have 5 of them, and one of them is huge. Well, he then proceeds to give me an anatomy lesson. He said the stones form in the kidneys. He said they don't hurt when they're there. He said, but from the kidneys, they pass through a tiny tube called the ureter down to the bladder. And he said a big stone can be 5 or 6 times wider than the ureter. And the word stone, they need to rename it. It's misleading, because when you hear stone, you think smooth river rock, gently tumbling. A kidney stone looks nothing like that. A kidney stone looks like a ninja Death Star. It's got spikes and claws and blades and hooks, so it's not sliding anywhere. It is cutting through nerves and muscles and blood vessels. And he said passing a big one was the equivalent of trying to get a porcupine to walk backwards through a garden hose. So you could see where there might be some discomfort. And I really thought I knew what pain was before this. I remember when I was about 20, I'm spending the night at a buddy's house, and I got up in the middle of the night to go get a glass of water, and I didn't turn the light on, and I hit my little toe on their coffee table. I broke it 90 degrees sideways, knocked the nail completely off. I laid in the floor and said the F word 148 times in a row. Next to a kidney stone, that made that seem like a bubble bath with Jennifer Aniston. See, and the thing only hurts when it moves. You just never knew when it was going to move. I mean, you'd feel great. You'd be talking to people. People are like, Jeff, what are you working on? I'm like, well, I was just out in L.A. filming some more of the American Bible Challenge. Oh, God. Oh, Jesus, hold my hand. Help me, Jesus. They're like, boy, he takes that show seriously, doesn't he? But the pain was nuts. I read online doctors that say it's the equivalent of a woman giving birth with no meds. Any women here given birth and had a kidney stone? And both. You've had both. Which one was worse? Giving birth. What about you? Giving birth. Here's my argument as defense attorney for the kidney stone. A year or two after having a baby, a woman will say, you know what, I'm about ready to have another child. You never hear a man say, well, I've about quit puking and crying. I think I'll drink a case of Coca-Cola and see if I can't work up another kidney stone. And when my doctor saw the big one, he immediately started writing me a prescription for Percocet. And I hardly ever take aspirin. I'm like, dude, you're wasting your time. I am not taking Percocet. Oh, you skinny mustache, bow-legged boy. When that thing started moving, I was eating Percocet like they were peanut M&Ms. I went from being Dr. Oz to Keith Richards in 3 seconds. And one night the pain was so bad, I'm telling you, I told my wife, I said, you got to take me to the hospital. The Percocet's not making a dent in this. So she drops me off there at the emergency room, and she goes to park the car, and I walk in, and I walk up to the desk, and the nurse said, so what's wrong with you? And I said, I have a kidney stone. And she kind of laughed. She goes, well, you're going to be waiting a long time tonight, hon. I said, no, ma'am, you don't understand. I said, I am in the worst pain of my life. She said, well, you just feel like you're going to die, but you're not. And I said, boy, you don't have a lot of sympathy, do you? She said, oh, you're looking for sympathy. Baby, that is in the dictionary between shit and syphilis. She said that. I looked it up later. She's right. I mean, it is. But she just hands me the clipboard to fill out. So I go in the waiting room. I sit down next to a guy that's got a knife in his head. He's got a knife sticking in his head. I'm like, oh my God, were you in a fight? He said, no, I have a kidney stone. I did this to myself trying to get to the back there. And sometimes when it would move, it would land in such a way it would block the urine stream, and then that ureter would balloon out, and it was the weirdest feeling because you felt like you were going to wet your pants, but then when you went, holy cow, did it hurt. So half your brain's like, you better go to the bathroom, you're going to embarrass yourself, you're going to wet your pants. And the other half's like, don't do it, it's going to hurt. And the kidney stone was like that Somali pirate in the movie Captain Phillips going, look at me, I am the captain of the ship now. I make the rules. And they had you pee through a strainer. Did they make you pee through a strainer? Because they want to find out what the stone's made of so they can take that out of your diet. So I felt like, you know, at Christmas when you watch the old Rudolph thing, the prospector, Yukon Cornelius. That's what I felt like. Nothing. So y'all, this went on for 6 weeks. 6 weeks, every day I was in this pain. And you know, the thing would lodge and it'd block the urine, and then it would move and it would hurt. And then all of a sudden I hit about 4 days where I felt great. And I thought, well, did I miss it in the strainer? Or maybe I passed it. And so I went back to the doctor and they took another x-ray. Well, the thing had lodged right in a bend in the ureter next to the bladder. But because it was lodged, It wasn't moving, so it didn't hurt. And it wasn't blocking the urine stream. And I'm like, hey, let's leave it there till the Lord comes back. But the doctor's looking at the x-ray. He goes, I don't like where that thing is at. He said, I'm going to give you about a week to pass it, and if you don't, we're going to have to go get it. I have a question. When you say go get it, what kind of trip are we talking about there? He said, well, we've got this flexible metal cord that has a retractable claw at the end of it. He said, we'll run that cord up the exit-only ramp, through the bladder. He said, we'll grab that stone and we will drag it out kicking and screaming. He said, once we get it out, we'll put a stent in that claw, go right back in a second time, and insert that stent into the walls of the ureter, which by now, quite honestly, have lost the will to live. He said, we'll leave it in there for 3 or 4 days. We'll go back in a third time, grab that stent, and yank it out. And I am thinking, since they outlawed waterboarding, this has got to be what they are doing to get terrorists to talk. So where's bin Laden? I do not know. All right, well, we're going to get that little metal cord with a claw and see if we can't find a kidney stone. Oh, you sons of the beaches. He is living in Pakistan in a White House on the corner. The gate code is yeah. You will find him upstairs, last bedroom on the left. I'm telling you, the idea of 3 trips with the claw scared the willy out of me. I'm like, I'll do anything to avoid this. So I read online, they said cranberry juice might help you pass one. I'm guzzling it. I am jumping on the trampoline. I am doing anything to get rid of this stone and avoid the claw. And it must have worked, because a couple of nights later, my wife and I were watching TV. I got up at one point to go to the restroom, and right in the middle of it, I had just real quick, sharp pain. You know, it was like, ugh! Y'all, I looked down, and there is this black, spiky, little pea-sized marble rolling down the inside of the toilet towards the hole. And my mother always says, Jeff, you don't have to tell everything. And I'm like, Mom, there's good money in it, trust me, all right? That being said, I'm not proud of this, but when I saw the thing about to go down the hole, I panicked. And so I turned, and when I turned, I peed all over the wall in the bathroom, including a brand new roll of toilet paper. I stuck my arm in that warm toilet water, I grabbed that thing, and I pulled it out. I zipped my pants up, I marched down the hall into the living room, I went to the mantle, I took down my People's Choice Award, and I put it right up there in the track lighting. If you come by the house tomorrow, we'll all take a look at it. You guys have been awesome. Thank you for listening to me. You're terrific. And I am so thankful you showed up tonight, because we need you. We do what we call the thing the We've Been Thinking Tour, because as we think about stuff, we either have to get a psychiatrist or we need you to help us work through it, all right? First example, this one's pretty recent. Last Thursday, my brother lives next door to me. His oldest daughter is in medical school. She's in her 3rd year of med school, so in your 3rd year, you have to do everything. And then your 4th year, you kind of specialize. So my brother told me last Thursday she called home to let him know that that day had been prostate check day. It gets better. There are 60 people in her class. They all check the same guy. That's why I need your help. This guy is rolled in a ball right here. And the guy told him, he said he had been doing this for 40 years, and that over the last 40 years, he had had his prostate checked thousands and thousands of times. I'm thinking, you're not doing this for the money, are you? And here's the deal, I don't feel bad for him. He signed up for it. You know who I feel bad for? His mother. And I tell you why, because every week this woman has to go out to lunch with her friends, and her friends are like, well, Inez, what is Billy doing now? Well, he is working all the time, but he said it is wearing his ass out. And here's the other thing I got to thinking about. You know, when they check it, and when, maybe the women don't know this, but they got the glove on, and then they put that jelly. 60 applications of jelly. There is no way this guy can drive home from this event. He can't stay on the seat, you know? It's like... And he can't walk home because if he farts, he'll have a trail of bubbles behind him and little kids chasing him, trying to pop him. These are the kind of things we think about.
Right. I think they probably pretty pissed off at me about right now. I'm bad for business, I guess. I'm the only guy ever gone from Nutrisystem commercials to heartburn medication right here on stage. Man, I'm 5 pounds away from a sleep apnea contract up here. What the hell? No, look, Nutrisystem worked for me. I just didn't do it right. I didn't know you weren't supposed to eat the packaging. All right, that's my problem. Oh, proud to say OTC. God love them. They ain't the first, you know, the first people ever wanted me to do a commercial was 2003, Blue Collar TV. You know how they promote alternative fuels to be used? In 2003, they wanted me to test drive a truck, a pretty good-looking truck that run on human waste. That's true. I drove it for 3 days. What a piece of crap. 3 days, no pun intended. I go through the Taco Bell drive-thru in that deal, flooded the engine when I went through that deal. You believe that? It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. A buddy of mine had to come down there to drive-thru, give me a jump fart when I was down there to drive-thru. If you can find another comedian in the country with a punchline of jump fart, I will kiss your hind end right now in front of everybody, because you're never going to find that.
A wise idea to unbutton your pants in transit trying to save a couple of seconds. Because the muscles that guard the floodgates will interpret the unbuttoning as the signal to abandon their post, and the 2 seconds you saved on the button are nullified by the hour and a half you spend mopping and doing laundry. You only learn that the hard way. Pour the milk on and you will rip the roof of your mouth to shreds. You wait too long after you pour the milk on and the captain will put a film on your teeth a wire brush can't get rid of. Google won't tell you that. Fact of life. I mean, because they test you to see if you have learning differences or if you're gifted, they might give you elevated courses. See, back in the good old days, it didn't matter if you were a genius or if you were eating crayons, you were all in the same class. And they put no thought into what they were teaching us. I remember, like my 11th grade year of high school, one semester of English was devoted entirely to poetry. Like, what were blue-collar kids from the wrong side of the tracks going to do with poetry? My husband won't fix the broken screen door. Our cat just threw up a dead bird on the floor. I have 4 little children I constantly feed, so please don't you ask me why I smoke weed. Now they're teaching sex education in the 5th grade, starting in the 5th grade. Nobody taught me about sex back in the good old days. My parents told me nothing. My school taught me nothing. Everything I learned about sex, I pieced together for myself. Like when I was 11, we had an uncle that raised rabbits. And so we were out at his farm one weekend, and he took a group of us out to the shed where he kept the rabbits. And he had all the males in cages on one side and all the females in cages on the other. And he opened a male's cage, grabbed him by the scruff of the neck, walked over, opened a female's cage, and dropped him in there. And that male rabbit jumped on top of that female rabbit and jackhammered like a hurricane for like 5 seconds. And then he fell off on his back. And everybody was laughing except me. Because I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it that fast. Turns out I had nothing to worry about.
Did a bunch with my kids, took them to a zoo down there, pretty good zoo. I like zoos. You like zoos? I like good zoos. I don't like them. You ever been to a bad zoo with just regular critters, you know, like a bunny and a skunk and a goat and a cow, you know, crippled deer over there? The rhinoceros is just some fat kid with a chocolate-covered banana strapped to his forehead. Which, by the way, is the worst job I ever had in my entire life, by the way. Let me just say that. Every time I go to the zoo, all the good animals I want to see are sleeping already. What the hell? It's like Cosby got there 20 minutes before I did. What? Oh, come on. That's funny. I don't care who you are right there. Come on now. Hey, I told that joke at the zoo and the hyenas laughed their ass off at that, all right? Weirdest thing I ever seen at a zoo was a bunch of penguins and nuns staring at each other. Took my wife and kids to the Wisconsin Dells to the water park up there. That's right. You ever been to a water park? For all y'all ain't never been to a water park, picture everybody at Walmart with bathing suits on, all right? What the hell? That's where I found out a wiener twister wasn't a snack stand at the water park in there. Boy, they got some fast rides. They had one ride, 70 miles an hour. You get up there, straight down, halfway down, somebody's underbreeches and swim trunks went flying by my head. I'm like, oh, that poor guy. They were mine. Ah! That's one thing about a water park. Nobody goes home with a dirty butthole. I'll guarantee you that much right there. That's right. It'll clean you out good in there. Next time you can't afford the water park, just stand naked in front of a floor mirror and shoot your water pick up your hind end, all right? It'll have the same effect. I almost got beat up at the water park. You believe it? I almost got beat up at the water park. I'm standing in line, get on this one water ride. There's a dude clutching on this big-ass inner tube. And I said, hey, where'd you get that inner tube? He said, what? I said, that big-ass inner tube you got there. He said, that's my wife, you son of a bitch. They got indoor water parks.
Fact of life, when you're driving down the road and you come up behind that old truck that's got like 13 wooden pallets stacked in the back of it, and they're held together by 2 ratty bungee cords, every one of us prays the same prayer. Dear God, don't let those bungee cords break until after I get around this guy. What happens to them, we don't really care, but I need to get around. Is necessarily a good thing. We're obsessed with it, especially when it comes to like medical stuff. See, back in the good old days, people accepted aches and pains. It's just part of what went on when you started getting old. But now, anytime we have a little ache or pain, we got to go Google it. You could have a hangnail. You're Googling, what's the best way to treat a hangnail? On rare occasions, hangnails can be an indicator you've had an undiagnosed cerebral hemorrhage. Oh, hell. What's wrong, Lloyd? I'll tell you what's wrong, Connie. 60 seconds ago, I didn't know I had a cerebral, and now apparently the damn thing is hemorrhaged. You get scared to death with medical stuff on your phone. You don't even have to be looking for it. I had a pop-up not long ago that said low back pain can be an early indicator of premature blindness. Hell, I've got low back pain. I thought it's because I helped my wife rearrange the furniture in the den. Why'd I move the couch? Now I'm just going to run into it. I got to get online and order a guide dog while I can still find my laptop. Thing is, it's a TV, no excuse to ever miss the game anymore. How many guys, be honest, ever sat during a wedding with your phone in your lap, turn the volume down, watch a football game? Yeah, and it's porn. And you don't even have to be looking for it. There's so much porn in here, it's looking for you. Not long ago, my wife and I were trying to figure out where to go eat one night. I typed in delicious Italian near me. I'm like, Mamma mia. That's a spicy meatball there. See, back in the good old days, porn was when one of your friends found a discarded Playboy magazine, and you would sneak it back to the secret clubhouse in the woods. Therefore, the password. And maybe if you're into porn, now is the good old days, because it took 2 hands to hold that magazine, but only 1 hand to hold your phone. And human beings being able to corrupt anything that is good have found such naughty things to do with this phone. People actually take pictures of their private parts and send them to other people, which is such a fabulous idea. What could possibly go wrong with an idea like that? See, back in the good old days, if I had wanted to send my girlfriend a picture of my private parts, I would have had to have found a piece of notebook paper, put it on the edge of the kitchen table, waited until nobody else was home, ran over to the table, dropped my pants, laid Junior on the paper, take a pencil and trace him out. Then I would have had to have got a box of crayons, and it would have had to have been the 64 count box, because that was the only one that had flesh tone in it. Color it in, fold that paper up, put it in an envelope, address it to my girlfriend, put a stamp on it, walk down the driveway and put it in the mailbox to mail it to her. So 3 days later, she could call me and go, "Why did you send me a drawing of your thumb?" It's just not the sexy effect you're looking for.
In working with Compassion, because what Compassion does, and I've been working with them for 10 or 12 years, is they go all over the world, and in the most efficient way, they love on people that the world's kicked to the curb, which is exactly what Jesus would be doing.
Exactly, man. What an incredible organization. Compassion, as our primary partner this year with the G5 initiative in Rwanda, has given us a vehicle where our students can sponsor a child halfway across the world, talking about just an unlikely partnership where a student from Ohio or from Wisconsin all of a sudden drops in the middle of a village in Rwanda through sponsorship, and for a little more than $1 a day, puts education, medication, clean water, honestly empowers the local church in that village to just be the hands and feet of Jesus and to really make a difference.
So both of our kids are college age. What would you say to the college students is the advantage of getting into something like sponsorship at that age, as opposed to, say, when you're older and more financially set?
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. I mean, I think because you've got kids who are in college, that this generation of college students aren't just content with just sending $1 a day halfway across the world, or just buying coffee that's connected to good work in Guatemala. They actually want to be the hands and feet of Jesus. They actually want to build relationships. They want to get out of that one-dimensional sponsorship, get into a pen pal relationship, get to go halfway across the world and meet the child that they're sponsoring.
And see where they live, and see where they sleep, and at a much earlier age than you and I did, make their life richer and fuller and more meaningful. You know, I always tell my kids, you don't get a practice lap. You get 1 lap around the track. It's not like you can do it once and go, all right, next time I'm...
That's right.
So why not, from the get-go, make it... It's like Jesus said, I give you life to the full. This is part of life to the full.
That's right.
You are creating a relationship that through your correspondence back and forth, that is decades long, and it makes your life richer and fuller to be tied into the hopes and dreams of somebody on the other side of the world, and they're tied into your life, and it's like, wow, I never saw that coming. I never saw another important relationship coming when I signed up to write that check every month.
Yeah, so through this Compassion International sponsorship of a child in Rwanda, you're coming alongside of a family, not just so that you can meet their everyday needs, but because the gospel calls us to love the widow, the orphan, and the stranger. And honestly, one of the funnest parts of that is going to be partnering to do together what we could never do alone.
Amen.
So before we really get into it, I did want to make sure we allude to something they saw. They probably were like, wow, why was the Olympic? You didn't get hurt while we were in Rwanda. You came with a broken ankle.
I broke my ankle like the week before we went. So.
Yeah, and when we heard that, we thought, oh no, is he going to back out? But then you didn't, and I thought that was
no, because my daughter Jordan would have disowned me, because if Jordan could just make her life going on a mission trip every week, that's what she would do. And so we were so excited about going, and she had been years before, and she's like, I want you to see Rwanda. And so
she's been a lot of times to Africa, right?
Yeah. The first trip I ever, mission trip, it was with Jordan was 14.
Yep.
And we went to, worked over in AIDS orphanages in Kenya. So that was, 12 years ago.
Since then, 10 times, Jordan, you've been?
Something like that, yeah.
Well, that's incredible. Tell us why you're so passionate about this kind of work.
So our first trip was, I was 14 and in 8th grade and had never really traveled before. And it was certainly like a life-changing experience, to say the least. And I went with you and a group of fathers taking their children from my church, and was just amazed right away at what Compassion was doing there. And on that first trip, we met our 2 sponsored girls, and we had just started the sponsorship process. So, they were real shy. They were, it was hard to kind of connect all the way with them because they were so shy. And then we came back a few years later and saw them, and just in a few years, through Compassion sponsorship process, these girls had grown up. They were confident. They were excited to show us around and for us to meet their friends. And just the change in them for just a few years of being sponsored was absolutely
they had
amazing.
Become like little leaders within that community, so which was really cool.
It was really cool.
And it became a relationship. It wasn't just sending money. I mean, these girls have now for the last 12 years grown up with us. How are you doing? What are you studying? What are you guys up to? And it's a life-changing relationship for them, I think, and that's what Jordan and I learned early, is that you're changing somebody's life.
Yeah.
You have the power to do that, to breathe life into somebody and to breathe hope into somebody.
Jordan, you got to meet your sponsored child on this trip. Tell us about that. I know, Jeff, your whole family got to.
Well, our sponsored child lived at the top of the mountain. I'm like, why couldn't they live
That's the footage of him with the crutches trying to get there. We made it, so that was good. Her name's Becky, and she has 2 sisters. She's precious, and it was really cool. We got to sit in their home and talk with her mother and learn about their life. And her father had left, had abandoned them a few years before, and it was
a mom raising 3 daughters
Yeah.
on her own, but the fact what Becky was getting in school was literally like a lifeblood for the whole family.
Yep.
So it's really cool.
That's one of the things people don't know. When you sponsor a child, that child is really the whole family that's represented. Jared, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. You are investing in one life, but the way that works is, that family, it could be 7 people in the family, and yet what's amazing is that family, that child getting the benefits, that church is reaching out to that entire family, because everything Compassion does is through that local church. So those pastors that we work with, they know that family. They know their community, so they know what they need, and they're able to invest in them that way.
So, Mr. Rockstar Rudy, everybody in Rwanda knows Rudy, by the way. What is it about your generation that is drawn to this? Because when I think about sponsorship, if you go back 10 years ago, it's something old people like we did. And then when we started talking about students getting involved in this, I'm like, man, that is such an out-of-the-box, cool idea. What is it about this that appeals to your generation?
Yes, sir.
No more letting people over 65 forward emails. They can use the internet, they just can't forward emails. They cannot contain themselves, they forward everything. I spend hours a day deleting the emails of my father-in-law and my mother. And my father-in-laws are always the political ones. If you don't send this to 1 million people tonight, you are not an American. Well, I was going to watch TV, but this is going to take a while. And my mothers are always the humorous ones, which she mislabels in the subject line. She'll have funniest thing I've ever seen. No, it's not, Mother. It's two kittens in a clothes basket. At best, it's mildly amusing, and you're distracting me from surfing the web looking for nursing homes within driving distance. See, when it comes to technology, my wife and I laugh about this because we're in our mid-50s, and my wife says we are the bologna in the technology bologna sandwich. We're right in the middle because our parents can't text and our children can't write. My kids don't even think you need to study. They're like, Dad, if you want to know something, you just Google it. And to a point, they're right. I mean, when I was growing up, if you were watching TV and somebody said, what was that guy in? You'd go, well, he looks familiar. That was it. Now you're watching TV, somebody goes, what was that guy in? Somebody goes, he was the janitor on Joey. Of course he was. But I try to tell my kids, I said, yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can learn from Google. I said, but there's just as much stuff you can't learn from Google. You only learn it from life experience. You'll usually learn most of it the hard way. It's stuff that's not Googleable. I don't know if that's a word. But I call them the facts of life. It's stuff you can't Google, like this, fact of life. Now, some good stuff happened during COVID too, some really good stuff. I became a grandpa for the very first time during COVID. And I love this little boy more than any human being on the planet. And my daughter, I don't know how she pulled this off, but somehow she arranged to be able to get on the Jerry Springer show, and we were able to find out who the father is without spending one dime of our own money. So that was great. I'm kidding. We have no idea who the father is. Something else great that happened is my mother's flip phone finally broke. That is an event 20 years in the making. Yeah, 1 month into COVID, my mom's flip phone broke, and so we bought her her very first iPhone. And if you were to say to me tonight, Jeff, would you rather teach your mother how to text or teach your dog how to wipe his ass? I would probably say, hand me the toilet paper. Let me give that a shot. The texting has been a little bit of a challenge. And my daughters were so excited, you know, that their GABA was finally texting. So they're texting her. One night I get a call from my mom, and she says to me, what is low? I said, what are you talking about, Mom? She said, Jordan sent me a text, and at the end of it, it said low. I said, how do you spell it? She said, L-O-L. I said, Mom, that's not low, that's laugh out loud. I said, that's what the kids do now. Instead of writing everything out, you know, they just use initials like IDKs, I don't know, OMGs, oh my gosh. You know, I said, that's how they do it. A few nights later, I get a text from my mother that says IYGTTGSINSK. I'm like, oh God, Mom's had a stroke. I called her up. I said, Mom, what did you just text me? She said, I was doing like the girls do. I said, if you go to the grocery store, I need some ketchup. Well, of course, why didn't I see that? And she loves this iPhone because it has features on it that her flip phone didn't have, like reception. It's funny, whenever I get invited to something like this, I think because I hosted Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Yeah, somebody asked me, what was your favorite part of doing that show? And I said, the part where they handed me the cards with the answers on it. That was my favorite part. But I think people think because I hosted that show that I'm smarter than I am. And I'm like, I knew none of that stuff. I'm not like Alex Trebek. We had a lady on one day, they asked her, it was like a second grade grammar question. It was something about an antonym.
And she said, oh, I remember there were homonyms and synonyms and antonyms. She said, I can't remember the difference in them. Can you use it in a sentence? My antonym came over for Christmas dinner. I know nothing. I'm an idiot. In fact, when I started hosting that show, I started making a list of all the things I didn't know.
Their influence to love their neighbor, to be a good Samaritan. And then you were like, I want to make sure Rudy's coming along, you know, who's my son, and Jordan's coming along. I think a part of that story was Rudy was adopted from Guatemala when he was a kid, and so he knows what it's like beyond sponsorship to walk into adoption. Same thing, but taken to another
It was
level.
one of the most beautiful things for me to see. I've been on a lot of trips, but to see Rudy, and I've grown up with Rudy, I've known Rudy a long time, to know how you guys said, we're going to adopt and bring him in. And no one knows that Rudy's adopted. They just think because he looks like you somewhat that
we're from separate parts of the world.
Separate parts of the world.
Rudy's better looking.
There you go, that's right. But the beauty
People always walk up to Rudy and they go, hey, I know who your dad is. Which
I'd love to know him too.
Yeah. Rudy's always like, well, my dad's not biologically, but I guess
I know you.
So
yeah.
Love you.
There you go. It's kind of like, man, what do you follow with that? No, I love watching Rudy with those kids. Because Rudy, you understand those kids. And the way that you just like, I mean, it was reckless abandonment. I wish everybody, you could have been there to see Rudy. It's just like, oh, there's kids. You guys are going to go do your thing. I'm going to go with them. And it was like, where's Rudy? And you just find the group of kids, and that's where Rudy was. But I love it because he was Jesus to them in that moment because he knows what they've walked through. And that's what I want for you guys as students is like, you know what Jesus has done for you. You were orphaned, and Jesus has brought you in. You have the same opportunity to be those hands and feet and love these kids.
Jordan, could you speak into, and Jeff too, could you guys speak into just compassion and their stewardship with God's people sacrificing? I know a lot of times Rudy was like, Dad, I'm willing to give. I just want to make sure it's the legit resources. I want to make sure that when I give, I get the most amount of bang for the buck. If it's hard for me to come up with a buck and I put it in, I want to make sure that most of that goes to the child. You've seen it 10 times being over there.
Yeah.
And would you kind of give us some of the nuts and bolts? Give us this.
All of them talk about the war on women. They each blame each other for having a war on women, which is stupid. This is a media thing. Nobody would have a war on women because they would never win an election. Common sense. If there is any war on women, it's men fighting with each other trying to get a woman. Because everybody loves women. And you know why every man wants a woman? Because women are in sole possession of the most valuable thing on the planet. A brain. These two guys are like, well, I missed that one. Well, guess what? They own all of that too. Which I think is part of God's great plan. See, I think God created women to guide men through life. But God knew men were hard-headed and men weren't going to listen to women. So God gave women the other stuff just to make us pay attention. I just think he may have underestimated how powerful the other stuff was going to be to us. Well, think about this. Adam and Eve live in the Garden of Eden. God says to them, you will never be hungry, you'll never be thirsty, you'll never be sick, you'll never die. I'm going to come by every afternoon and go for a walk with you. There's only one rule to live here. Don't eat the fruit off of that one tree. Now, God had no more than gotten in his car and driven off when Eve walked over to the tree and picked an apple and looked at Adam and said, think we should eat this? And he looked at her standing there buck naked and went, hell yeah, baby, if you want to, let's do it. If God had put her in a flannel nightgown, we might all be living in paradise today. Fact of life, out of all the dinosaurs, the Tyrannosaurus Rex was the meanest because his arms were too short to reach his wiener. That is a medically proven fact. That will make you angry. And you'll never watch Jurassic Park the same way again. Fact of life, if you're driving down the interstate and you come up behind that old pickup truck that has like 13 wooden pallets stacked in the back and they're held together by like 2 ratty bungee cords, we all say the same prayer. Dear God, do not let those bungee cords break until I get around this guy. What happens to them, we don't really worry about, but I need to get around him. Fact of life, when your kids go off to college, you need to be concerned about the excessive drinking, the wild sex, the sleeping till noon, and you need to worry your kids might be doing the same thing. Fact of life, 100% of the black men that shave their heads look really cool. 50% of the white guys that shave their heads look like they just murdered their parents. And you're thinking of somebody right now, aren't you? Fact of life, flying on an airplane makes you gassy. Nobody ever talks about this. Nobody ever acknowledges this. We just take our little roll-around suitcase and walk to baggage claim, popping them off like a trail horse. Okay, let me tell you what makes me feel better. When I write this stuff, I don't know if it's just me or not. But when you laugh like that and start punching each other, I know there's others in the club. And I think that's why TSA is always in such a bad mood, by the way. No more sugar-free cookies. So, I mean, it's like going to the drive-in movie by yourself. You can do it, but it ain't ending in a smile. You're an adult. If you want a cookie, eat a cookie. If you want sugar-free, eat celery. Quit wasting valuable cookie dough on sugar-free cookies. Nobody likes them. Now, you hear this a lot in an election year like this year. I don't know why you can't ride a bicycle anymore without dressing like Lance Armstrong in the Tour de France. Does anybody remember when you could ride a bike wearing jeans and a t-shirt? Not anymore, boy. Got to have the uni. And it's not just young athletic people. Got these fat middle-aged guys look like the Michelin Man in a wetsuit. And they have sponsor logos. Who's sponsoring you, Pop? Dunkin' Donuts, all right. Pedal. I don't know why in 2017 there's still certain jobs that are men's jobs or women's jobs. Like if there's yeah. But there are, like if there's a noise in the house in the middle of the night, whose job is it to go check it out? It's the man. You never see this. Phyllis. Phyllis, run downstairs, see what that noise was. Hey, bring me back a piece of chicken, okay? No, if there's a noise in the house in the middle of the night, it's the man checking it out. In his underwear, carrying a baseball bat. Because that is the official uniform of suspicious noises, underpants and a baseball bat. Don't know what we're hoping to find, some guy in the living room in his underwear with a ball. Yeah. And my dad didn't even need the baseball bat because my dad always wore those gigantic boxer shorts that were always gapped open in the front. That gap was like a taser to a thief. Shut the gap, shut the gap. Take my wallet, just shut that gap. I don't know why cats never throw up in the daytime. Cat, the gas station has got a car wash right there.
He goes, yeah, well, that's $6. I'm like, so to save $6, you gave away all your dignity and washed your car with a squeegee and the dirtiest water on the planet Earth. I used to have fantasies about going out with a girl as nasty as the squeegee water at the gas station. He is such a trip. Yeah, and he walks around, he's got his pants up to his nipples now. And he just talks about how the world has gone to hell in a hay wagon and it used to be so much better back in the good old days. Of course, when he describes the way he grew up, it's always tough. You know, it's like, oh, yeah, we had no electricity. Me and my brother shared a pair of shoes. We had to walk to school through 5 feet of snow. I'm like, when did it snow 5 feet in New Orleans? But I kind of get what he means about the good old days. Because, think about it, as you get old, technology has changed your entire life. Morality has changed. Society has changed. And all of a sudden, you find yourself living in a world that doesn't make sense to you. So you kind of long for that world where you felt like you had things figured out. And to them, that's the good old days. But it couldn't have been perfect. I was asking my mom about it because I have gotten to do this for a long, long time. And I've gotten to do a lot of different things. I mean, whether it's write books or, you know, like host Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader or different things. And so, you know, I've never been bored. But if anybody put a gun to my head and said, you got to pick one thing, without hesitation, it would be doing this. I love stand-up because this is what I see when I do this. You did that all day. And every night I'm like, thank God it's not just my family. Other people are doing this too. None of us have it figured out. Everybody's family is crazy. The only negative thing I've ever found about this job is you're on the road by yourself, which was why doing something like the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, it was so much fun because I wasn't on the road by myself. I was with my buddies. And people will always say, oh, I bet y'all have so many funny stories from when y'all are on the road together. And there's a ton of them. And I'm not going to tell one on the other guys because they're not here to give their side of it and, you know, make it twice as funny. But I will tell you one funny road story about me that we can leave on tonight. So not the summer of 2020, the summer of 2019, I was doing a bunch of summer dates with Larry the Cable Guy. And in the summer, you get used, get her done, yeah. So when you do shows in the summer, you get used to being hot because it's usually, you know, festivals or fairs or amphitheaters. We did a music festival in Phoenix. It was 112 degrees the day we did it. And the promoter's trying to make us feel good. He's like, come on, y'all, it's a dry heat. I'm like, so is the electric chair. It's 112. Yeah. But Larry and I did this show one night, and it was in the South, and I'm not going to tell you the name of the city because somebody's probably talented enough to go online and find a security camera that could verify this. But it wasn't just hot, it was humid. And you can see, I don't sweat very much, but this night, 10 minutes into the show, I am dripping. I mean, it's just dripping off my nose. 30 minutes into the show, I look like I'm in a wet t-shirt contest. I mean, like somebody sprayed me with a fire hose. I don't think I've ever sweated that much in one night. So when the show was over, you know, I immediately go back to my dressing room and start guzzling Gatorade and water, trying to rehydrate. And we hardly ever eat before a show because it kind of makes you sluggish, so we're always hungry when the show is over. So I'm in my dressing room chugging the Gatorade, and I hear Larry the Cable Guy coming down the hall. Well, he swings into my doorway, and he's like, hey, let's go eat. And Larry says this a lot. And I usually go because it's fun to watch Larry eat. I mean, he can go. But you know how you get when you get too hot? You don't feel like doing anything. And I said, dude, I got too hot tonight. I'm not hungry. I said, I think I'm just going to go back to the hotel and go to bed. He's like, are you kidding me? He goes, I cannot wait until you ask me to do something for you. Like, what are you, 9 years old? This isn't personal. I got too hot. And so I got in the van. They took me back to the hotel. And anybody that makes their living on the road, you have your little routine. Like I always like it really dark in a room, so I'll turn the lights down low. I like it cool. I'll turn the thermostat down. But every day you're changing cities, and every hotel room's a little bit different. And so one of my tricks is I'll always turn the lights on in the bathroom, and I'll shut the door. But that way, if I have to get up in the middle of the night, at least I can orient to, what this particular hotel room is like. And I usually sleep in my underwear, but this night they're soaking wet. And I told you I only packed 3 pair, so. And I'm like, I'm not sleeping in wet underwear, so I peel them off and I flop in the bed naked and I'm out. Well, I wake up about 1:30 in the morning and I really, 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 really have to pee. Any guy over 40 knows what I'm talking about. You have to pee too much to go back to sleep. There's no way you're going back to sleep. But you don't really want to wake up. You just want to go get this act over with and get back in the bed. So I get up and got my eyes about half open. I see the light and I walk in there. Well, as soon as the door closes, I realize I'm in the hall. Of a really nice hotel without a stitch of clothes on. And you want to wake up in a hurry, this is the way to do it. Forget coffee, this is much faster. So I'm standing there with nothing on in the hall. I'm like Matt Damon in The Martian. Solve the problem, solve the problem. Well, I knew Larry's room was straight across the hall from mine. So I run over there and I'm knocking on his door and he's not answering, and I can just picture him peeking through the keyhole and laughing. Well, as I'm knocking on his door, I hear the elevator ding. I'm like, well, I got a 50-50 shot. They're either going to come my way or they're going the other way. Well, these 2 Korean guys get off, they're talking to each other, and they turn and they start heading right to me. I'm like, all right, what do? Act like nothing's up. So I start walking towards them. Literally pass them in the hall. I'm like, hey, how you doing? And one of them said something which I really hoped meant, wow, that was impressive. But when I looked it up on Translator, I found out it meant, did you see her mustache? So I knew I couldn't get on the elevators. I know elevators have cameras on them. I don't want to get on the elevators. And I'm like, what the heck do I do? Well, I saw like the exit sign over the door for the stairwell. And I'm like, at least get out of the lighted hallway into the stairwell and then try to come up with a plan. And I'm hoping as I'm running down the hall that there'll be a trash can there with a trash bag that I can pull out and wear like a sundress, or something. So I get into the stairwell and there's no trash can. And I'm trying to think my way through what to do, and I noticed there's a couple of empty beer cans on the floor. Well, the reason I got up in the first place was I had to pee. I have no idea how long I'm going to be in this stairwell, and I'm not proud of this, but I picked those beer cans up and I peed in them and put them back. I feel terrible about it, because I know somewhere down the road somebody's going to have to clean them up. But it was old Milwaukee, and I figure they'll pick them up and go, yeah, that's old Milwaukee, all right. So, but like I said, this was a really nice hotel, so they had 24-hour room service. And I thought, well, maybe somebody has put their room service tray outside the door, and I can get that cloth napkin that they put on it and wear it like a, Tarzan thing or whatever. So I start going down the stairwell and stopping at every floor and looking down the hall to see if I can see a room service tray. And I get down about, 2 or 3 floors, and I don't see a room service tray, but I see 2 pizza boxes outside somebody's room. Well, at this point, they look like a tuxedo to me. So I run down the hall, pick up the pizza boxes. I go back to the stairwell, and I go down the last couple of floors and never do find a room service tray. But by now, it's really late. It's like 2 in the morning. And from the lobby level, I can crack the door open. I can see almost the entire lobby. I don't see anybody. I don't hear anybody talking. I think, all right, be brave for 20 seconds. Got one box in the front, one in the back. And I go skidding. I go up to the desk. There's this woman working there. And as I approach, she looks up and she goes, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, you can." I said, "I accidentally locked myself out of my room. Can I just get another key so I can get back in?" And she goes, "Do you have any identification?" I said, "I do, but it's in my other pizza box." I'm like, "No, I locked myself out of my room. I have nothing." And she said, "Oh, well, I think I'm going to need to call a manager." And she goes behind the wall. And I'm thinking, she's not calling a manager. She's calling the cops. But it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm naked with a pizza box in front of my junk. What am I going to do? And as I'm waiting, all of a sudden the front doors to the hotel slide open. And in walks Larry the cable guy and our tour manager. And I'm like, "Thank you, God, this is answered prayer." Now they come walking across the lobby. Again, I am naked, holding a pizza box. Larry walks up. He doesn't say, "Oh my gosh, bud, what happened to you?" He looked at me. He looked at the pizza box. He goes, "I thought you said you wasn't hungry." You've been sitting here naked in the lobby eating pepperoni. I said, "Dude," I said, "I accidentally locked myself out of my room." Well, about that time, here comes the front desk lady back, and now she's got a security guard with her. I said, "Larry," I said, "I need you to do me a favor. Please tell her who I am so she can give me a key and I can get back in my room." He looked at me and he looked at her and he goes, "I have never seen him before in my entire life." And he got on the elevator and went up. Now, thankfully, the security guard burst out laughing. He recognized both of us. This was like the nicest guy I think I've ever met in my life. And he got the emergency key. He rode up the elevator with me in the pizza box and walked me down the hall, let me in my room. I said, "Wait right here." I went and got my wallet. I gave him a $100 bill. I'm like, "Thank you so much. Please never tell anybody about this." And now I'm telling y'all for free. Yeah. So I got back in my room. I put on my sweatpants and my T-shirt and made sure I had that room key in my pocket. And I waited about 10 minutes. And I walked back across the hall and I knock on Larry's door. He opens the door. He's still laughing. He's like, he said, "I told you I couldn't wait until you asked me to do something for you." I said, "All right, you got me." I said, "Are we even?" He's like, "Yeah, we're even." I said, "Well, just to prove I don't have any hard feelings, I went and got you a beer." You guys have been so great. I don't know why you can't ride a bicycle anymore without dressing like Lance Armstrong in the Tour de France. Does anybody remember when you could ride a bike wearing jeans and a T-shirt? Not anymore, boy. Got to have the uni. And it's not just young athletic people. Got these fat middle-aged guys look like the Michelin Man in a wetsuit. And they have sponsor logos. Who's sponsoring you, Pop? Dunkin' Donuts, all right. Pedal. And we're always accidentally dialing people we didn't mean to dial. We call them butt dials. All right, I'm going to see what an honest audience you are. How many people listen more intently to butt dials than they do actual phone calls? If somebody butt dials me and I don't have anything to do, I'll stay on for like 20 minutes. I'm like, I have a buddy named Pert. He makes furniture, and Pert always sticks his phone in the front pocket of his blue jeans, so he's always butt dialing somebody. And one night he butt dialed me, and I didn't have anything going on, so I'm just sitting there listening to him walk around his shop. And after about 10 minutes, I hear a door open, and I hear a lid go up, and I hear him start to pee. Being the mature adult that I am, I jumped out of my chair, ran into the kitchen to my wife, and I went, "Pert's peeing, Pert's peeing, Pert's peeing." And we put it on speakerphone, and me and my wife stood there and listened to my friend urinate. Oh my God, I hope he farts at the end. I hope he, please. What is wrong with us? And here's the fascination with this. You can have a wife with long, beautiful hair, or you can be on time. Can't have both.
I think for my generation, we just want to be part of something bigger. We want to change the world and impact it, once we're gone. I believe that us as young adults, we often ask ourselves, like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to do this, or I'm not sure if I'm financially stable enough. And one thing that you have to remember is, like, these children, they were never ready to be orphans. They were never ready to be in poverty. And they weren't ready, and it doesn't matter if we're ready or not. Like, we're called to, God tells us that we need to go and help out the orphans and the widows, and just those that are in need. And so at the end of the day, also in the Bible, it says to obey is better than to sacrifice. And I just want to be obedient. And I want to call you guys to be obedient too. Like, if you're not already helping those who are in need out, we need to obey. And what better way to start than today by sponsoring a child and investing into a relationship?
I was telling Rudy at dinner last night, they always refer to the generation of people that grew up during World War II as the greatest generation. And I said, actually, you guys have the potential to be the greatest generation that take the message of Jesus and don't just use it to be a behavior modifier and to check off all the boxes as I'm behaving in the right way, but to literally be the hands and feet of Jesus. That when people look at the work that you do, that's what you look like. You look like him. You have a chance to be the greatest generation that ever lived. And what a marvelous opportunity that is.
Jared, you sit at the table with Compassion International, and you guys are so far in your day, to your history, over 3 million children and their families have been supported, taken care of, found local churches, have been just empowered through Compassion International. Right now, there's 1.8
million.
1.8 million children in
25 countries, 1.8 million.
Countries.
And we partnered right at 7,000 churches around the world that do that work with us.
And you do all the work you do through a local church.
That's right.
And so this is not social work, but gospel work for you guys.
Yep.
Because God calls us to so much more than just social work.
That's right.
We can feed somebody, meet their everyday needs, but unless they hear the gospel, we really haven't set them free.
We believe it's the 3 immediate needs, right? Your physical, and you say like the physical, the medication, right? So physical, the education side of things, and then the social, emotional, because poverty strips dignity. So someone's like, I am not like you. Like, you're coming from America, and what we want to tell them is, no, you have an identity, you have dignity, you are loved by Jesus. And so we believe those 3 immediate needs need to be met. You put skin in the game as somebody to go and meet that physical need for that child, but that's to meet the urgent spiritual need of them needing Jesus.
Yeah, it was interesting when we started to talk and Dream Out Loud, and you brought the Foxworthy family to the table. You said, hey, they're very passionate about sponsorship. They love the Lord. They're like a perfect partner with Liberty. They kind of get what you're about because they're about the same kind of things, using.
I like to hunt. I know there's a lot of hunters up here. And when I hunt, I do it a little different than most people. When I hunt, I dress all in orange from head to toe. And I hunt down by the interstate. That way the deer just think I'm a prisoner picking up trash out there. For y'all that don't hunt, did you know this? Did you know a deer gets a new rack every year, just like the Kardashians? Did you know that's true right there? I had a buddy of mine got in trouble. He was hunting. He called me up and says, I'm in jail. I said, what's wrong? He says, I don't know. The game warden put me in jail. It's ridiculous. I said, what'd you do? He says, nothing. I shot 2 wild turkeys. He put me in jail. He can't do it just, no, I shot 2 wild turkeys. He put me in jail. He's a communist. I'm gonna go down and see what happened. I go down there about to raise a fuss. Turns out he did 2 shots of wild turkey and accidentally shot the game warden. All right, that's what happened. And his cousin was in a car accident. His face is all disfigured. And he told me the other day, I'm the ugliest man in the world. I just want to kill myself. And I said, come on now, you ain't either. So I wanted to cheer him up. So I run him up to Walmart for a few hours. And it worked. Turns out he's the 37th ugliest man in the world. So there's some ugly folks up there because it's so damn cold. What the hell? Anybody, I know it's cold here. You been to northern Wisconsin this summer? You know how long their summer lasts? 48 minutes. All right, I ain't kidding with you. I was just up there. I ain't kidding with you. You could have played this little piggy with my nipples when I was up there. My wiener was like a bear. It went into hibernation for 3 days. I ain't kidding. I could have flashed a cop and not gotten in trouble. I'm not kidding with you. You should have seen it. Looked like a helmet sitting on shrubbery if you looked real good at it. I wish my nipples and this would get together on the weather. My nipples love cold weather. My wiener hates it. I mean, it's cold. They're like, yeah. You know, he's like, ah. He's sucked up in there. It's embarrassing. I went to moon my cousin. Looked like I was pooping a mushroom. All right, I'm not kidding with you. Don't laugh at that. That's not even funny. I don't even know why you're laughing at that. Flipping freezing there. Remember I was there, the bed bugs at the hotel called the front desk and requested extra blankets. All right, I couldn't believe it. And I hate cold weather. I live in Nebraska. You talk cold. You know how cold it was Thanksgiving in Nebraska? This is a true story. There's a knock on my door, 6 o'clock in the morning. It was a turkey wanting to borrow my deep fryer. All right, I ain't kidding with you. It was freezing. My dog licked himself and got his tongue stuck. It was freezing. I had to wipe with an ice scraper. All right, they're not all funny, but they're in a row. All right, how's that? So I'm going for quantity, not quality here this evening, is what you had. I like warm weather. That's what I like. Bring on that global warming. That's what I say. People get nuts over that, don't they? Man-caused global. We need to do something about the way we live and we heating up the earth. Oh, shut up. Well, you seen what happened in Washington, D.C.? 27 inches of snow. Explain that. All right, February. How's that? I ain't Nostradamus, but I have a guess what's going to happen in July, too. Hot. All right, it's going to be hot in July. I mean, it's stupid. I got a buddy of mine. Well, you go ahead and laugh. The Earth's heated up 0.7 of a degree in the last 100 years. Oh, well, what the hell? Go home and stab yourself in the face, then. End it, all right? Just end it if it's that bad. How many people have ever gone outside in 100-degree weather and said, boy, I'll tell you what, it feels 3/4 of a degree hotter out here this year than it did last year. There's something going on in this country. Well, I like that warm weather. I don't like humidity, though. I lived in Florida for a long time, and you get to sticking down here good tonight. I had to shoot baby powder up there about every 3 minutes. I was down there in Florida. My mom had to make me a pair of boxer shorts out of a ShamWow when I was down there. I couldn't believe it. It was so hot in Florida one time, my grandpa replaced his hemorrhoidal suppositories with dilly bars. Dilly bars. This show should have been $300 a piece. All right, I'm telling you right now. That's a $300 joke right there. But it's hot in Florida in the summer. I remember in August one time I had a buddy of mine about 420 pounds. He'd leave my Target with a little plastic kiddie pool. I said, you ain't gonna fit in that to be cool. He said, no, the game's on. That's for bean dip. I shouldn't.
It's necessarily a good thing. We're obsessed with it, especially when it comes to like medical stuff. See, back in the good old days, people accepted aches and pains as just part of what went on when you started getting old. But now, anytime we have a little ache or pain, we got to go Google it. You could have a hangnail. You're Googling, what's the best way to treat a hangnail? On rare occasions, hangnails can be an indicator you've had an undiagnosed cerebral hemorrhage. Oh, hell. What's wrong, Lloyd? I'll tell you what's wrong, Connie. 60 seconds ago, I didn't know I had a cerebral, and now apparently the damn thing is hemorrhaged. You get scared to death with medical stuff on your phone. You don't even have to be looking for it. I had a pop-up not long ago that said low back pain can be an early indicator of premature blindness. Hell, I've got low back pain. I thought it's because I helped my wife rearrange the furniture in the den. Why'd I move the couch? Now I'm just going to run into it. I got to get online and order a guide dog while I can still find my laptop. Thing is, it's a TV, no excuse to ever miss the game anymore. How many guys, be honest, ever sat during a wedding with your phone in your lap, turn the volume down, watch a football game? Yeah, and it's porn. And you don't even have to be looking for it. There's so much porn in here, it's looking for you. Not long ago, my wife and I were trying to figure out where to go eat one night. I typed in delicious Italian near me. I'm like, Mamma mia. That's a spicy meatball there. See, back in the good old days, porn was when one of your friends found a discarded Playboy magazine, and you would sneak it back to the secret clubhouse in the woods. Therefore, the password. And maybe if you're into porn, now is the good old days, because it took 2 hands to hold that magazine, but only 1 hand to hold your phone. And human beings being able to corrupt anything that is good have found such naughty things to do with this phone. People actually take pictures of their private parts and send them to other people, which is such a fabulous idea. What could possibly go wrong with an idea like that? See, back in the good old days, if I had wanted to send my girlfriend a picture of my private parts, I would have had to have found a piece of notebook paper, put it on the edge of the kitchen table, waited until nobody else was home, ran over to the table, dropped my pants, laid Junior on the paper, take a pencil and trace him out. Then I would have had to have got a box of crayons, and it would have had to have been the 64 count box, because that was the only one that had flesh tone in it. Color it in, fold that paper up, put it in an envelope, address it to my girlfriend, put a stamp on it, walk down the driveway and put it in the mailbox to mail it to her. So 3 days later, she could call me and go, "Why did you send me a drawing of your thumb?" Just not the sexy effect you're looking for.
To talk about fat folks, so I got my own problems. So I started losing me some weight 2 weeks ago because I had a tragic event happen to me, kicked my butt in gear, and it sucks when you have to have a tragic event to make fat folk lose weight. And a lot of people, it's a heart attack or diabetes, and then let me tell you what happened to me 2 weeks ago. For the first time in my life, I had to show my titties to get out of a ticket. But I did see something that did change my life. I was reading an article the other day, and it said carbohydrates is the fastest way to the grave. And I told my wife right then after I read it, I said, "Sweetheart, mark this down on the calendar. Right now, from now on, done. I'm not reading nothing. All right? I ain't read nothing since. My wife has me on a diet now she come up with called the We're Not Having Sex Till You Lose Weight diet. That's what she had me on. This is my impression of my wife when we're making love. I've tried a lot of stuff, tried a dietitian, they're just taking your money. I go see a dietitian, you know what he says to me? Larry, you need to eat 6 times a day. I do that now. I tell you, if I eat 1 more time a day, you're gonna see me at Walmart on a scooter wearing pajama jeans, all right? That's ridiculous. Went to see a trainer, the trainer says,